Rule number one, we never sell our Bitcoin. And number one rule of your wealth when you retire is protect your wealth and find some way to live off of it. Now, right now, I've got Bitcoin and I don't want to sell my Bitcoin. I have never sold a single Satoshi. Let me put it this way. If you're lucky enough that you have 1,000 Bitcoin, go ahead, spend it. I said, if you're 25 years old and you got 0.25 of Bitcoin, you could retire on because you got 40 years of compounding appreciation. And if you don't touch it, when it comes to retirement age, you're going to have a lot of money on a quarter of a Bitcoin. People always say, well, this many billions got liquidated today. Who got the money? The people who gave them the leverage. In May, I did like 47,000 on 2,500 shares of strategy, and I still have the 2,500 shares, but I took 47,000 out of them. So you can live off that in retirement and not touch your Bitcoin. HODL. Hey, Joe, right there, HODL. The one thing to make this interview different that I'd like probably to go into is that retiring on a Bitcoin standard, I don't think traditional finance's Bitcoin lending is quite there yet. So what I've done, because rule number one, we never sell our Bitcoin, but you have to, where are you going to continue to get money on if you're actually retired? Okay, if you want a really good lifestyle. So I've been going on MicroStrategy, and I sell anywhere from 6 to 17 transactions a week selling options on MicroStrategy. And I can make anywhere from 1% to 2.5 or 3% on the options premium. And then I take that money and I use that to live on, because right now, I easily, even if the stock goes down, I can probably make minimum $5,000 a week on a $500,000 investment. So I make more money if the price goes up, but even if it's going down to a certain extent, at the end of the week, I'll still have the shares I have, and I will have taken 5,000 in value. So that's what I'm actually using for lifestyle, and I don't touch the Bitcoin. It's really a hell of a hack if you and it's playing the Bitcoin. I'm playing the Bitcoin. Hopefully, MicroStrategy goes up. But that's what I think we ought to talk about, because this retire on Bitcoin standard and never sell your Bitcoin, do you really want to pay 12%? That's awful high. Now, of course, you've talked to somebody probably clued you in on going to like AAVE or whatever it is, which you can do it cheaper. I've never done it, and it's totally decentralized. But we can talk about that. But I think that's a direction you might want to go in, because everybody just says hold your Bitcoin. But as somebody who's actually retired on it, it's one thing if you got a job or if you've got a business, you've got other income coming in, okay? But if all you got is you're a maxi and you got everything in Bitcoin, and I do, everything I've got is in Bitcoin, one way or the other.
Before we get started with the topic, give us some overview for the people that are watching and listening of who you are and why in the first place you are even excited about Bitcoin.
All right. Well, my name's Mark Hanna. I've been on your channel once before. It was a fun time. I have been retired since I was 49, actually. But when I retired, when I was 49, they didn't have Bitcoin. That was in 2004. Now I'm 70. So I'm here living in Thailand, in a rural part of Thailand, about 8 miles from Jomtien and Pattaya Beach in Thailand. And how I found Bitcoin was because on January 21st of 2021, I said, that's it. I'm done with the United States. Joe Biden doesn't do it for me. And I don't like the way the country's going. So I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to leave. So at that point, I spent the next 18 months trying to get out of the United States, sell everything I own. At that point, I had no Bitcoin, none. And this was January 21st of 2021. Now, I knew about Bitcoin. And I knew about it like everybody else did by watching, CNBC every day. And I was trading stocks and doing things like that. But I had no Bitcoin. And I said, if I'm leaving the country, how am I going to store my money? I don't trust. At that point, I didn't trust the United States. I didn't trust the way the government was going. And I didn't trust them not to take your money. And with fractional reserve banking being what it is, if everybody wants to go get their money out of the banks, the country's screwed. They've got like 2 cents on the dollar if they've got that much to pay out of what they owe. And as you know from our previous interview, debt is the number one disease of the world. So anyway, I didn't know how to get in Bitcoin. So right after that, I said, I can get some Bitcoin exposure by buying this company, MicroStrategy. So I bought MicroStrategy in 2021, just about 6 months after it started buying Bitcoin for its Bitcoin treasury. Now, I'm sure a lot of your followers know about MicroStrategy. So I was there when it went from low, went up to $1,200, and it did the 10-for-1 reverse or 10-for-1 stock split. I was there, and I loved MicroStrategy, and that got me into the first part of Bitcoin. And I needed Bitcoin to protect my wealth, and I needed to buy another citizenship by investment, because I didn't trust the country. And I know a lot of people in Europe right now are living in countries they don't trust what the European Union and is trying to do to their Bitcoin. And basically, I know that I hold my keys. It's my coin. And that's how I got into Bitcoin. What I did after that was I opened up a account with a couple of brokers. I had an account with Gemini. I should know I'm a Gemini. I was born June. I should know that. It's not Gemini. Gemini is a cricket that sits on a little shoulder in a Walt Disney movie. Gemini cricket. So anyway, I got with Swan Bitcoin, and I went back to work when I was 60. Well, I shouldn't say go back to work. I didn't work before I retired. I owned my own companies. But I decided at 60, I was bored. So I said, maybe somebody will just hire me as a IT guy, because that's what I did since 1979 was everything computers, everything networking, everything programming, everything. I was on the bleeding edge of technology for many, many years. So I got hired and got paid real well. So I said, I'm just going to put a substantial amount of money every single day into Bitcoin. And I wasn't a maxi. I didn't go from orange pill, I need Bitcoin, to maxi. It was a slow grind to get out of the United States. So that's how I got there. I mean, it's not an extraordinary story. It was, I didn't trust the country I was living in to protect what I worked for 40 years. Or at that time, it was I guess, 35 years or something. Because we're talking 4 years ago, so I would have been 66. And I just didn't trust the country I lived in. That's not to say there's anything wrong with the United States. I think it's come a long way to changing things, and I love the country. But I wouldn't go back and live there unless I absolutely 100% had no choice. Living in Thailand is so much better than living in the United States. But that got me out the door. That's what really got me out the door, Robin, is just Swan every day buying Bitcoin. And timing wasn't real good because I was buying Bitcoin when I first got in. I got in around, I guess my first buy was like 59,000 in 2021. And I watched it just every day seemingly come down a little bit more. But I bought every day, every single day, because at Swan, you could program it to buy every day. But I was still putting money away in a 401k that they were paying me. And I thought, well, that's going to be a little nest egg here. And since I was already retired, I was living on the money I had in stocks and investments and real estate. And, when I retired at 49, I was living on the money I had. And that's not really a very smart way to do it. It really isn't, because number one rule of Bitcoin is you don't sell your Bitcoin. And number one rule of your wealth when you retire is protect your wealth and find some way to live off of it. So for the guy who owns real estate and some apartment buildings, live off the rent. But don't sell your apartment building if that's how you're going to try to retire. Now, right now, I've got Bitcoin, and I don't want to sell my Bitcoin. I have never sold a single Satoshi, ever. Not one. That's why I put the HODL hat on. Plus, there's a big bright light over here in the recording studio. I should say recording studio / stock trading studio. So I had MicroStrategy all the time, but I started getting rid of all the other stocks. Even if they were good ones, Apple, Microsoft, get rid of them, swing it towards Bitcoin. Sell property, swing it towards Bitcoin. And I didn't trust the banks. But how are you going to live on that if you're never going to sell a Satoshi? Now, I have in the United States, they call it Social Security, and I've got pretty good Social Security payment. I've only met one guy in my life that actually was getting more than me. But it was based on how much money you made and paid to them is how much you get back. So I was doing all right, but I can't live the lifestyle I got here. I'm not living in a condo like I ran away from America and jumped into a 35 square meter condo. This is a 3,000 square foot single story pool villa. Right outside my door is my private 45-foot long pool that's 20 foot wide, I guess, 15 wide by 45 long, I guess. Beautiful. And it's not cheap. And with the way they're debasing the American currency right now, just in the last 6 months alone, my rent went up like $200 or $300 a month. I think last month it went up about $60 because I have to take the money that I'm getting from MicroStrategy through my options efforts, and I have to bring it to Thailand to pay the rent. And the US dollar's being debased. They're spending money. I'd say they're spending money like drunken sailors, but drunken sailors ain't that fucking stupid. They don't spend that kind of money. So they keep debasing the US dollar to a point where, it's $300 more a month than it was in November when I switched to this condo, this pool villa, which is bigger than the last pool villa. So you need the money to learn and earn. And what I did was I had the MicroStrategy. And lucky for me, in the United States, they have something called a Roth IRA. And if you have a regular IRA or a regular 401k or one of those other IRA type vehicles, you can roll it into a Roth IRA. There's some tax penalties for doing that. You have to pay some taxes and stuff. But it's good because once you get in there, every trade you make or every withdrawal you take is tax-free 100%. So let's say I've got 2,500 shares of MicroStrategy stock, now called Strategy, of course. Well, you can sell options on a weekly basis at various strike prices against that MicroStrategy stock, and you can make anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4%, depends on how big the volatility is and how good you are at guessing which way it's going to go. And if you do everything right, you're going to get higher percent. And if the volatility is real high, you're going to get a higher percent. But basically, if you can get to where you control 2,500 shares of strategy stock, you can, I think the best I've done on juice like that's like 25,000 in a week. And the worst is like 4,000. And that's even if the stock goes nowhere. If the stock opened for 300, like it did yesterday, closed at $377.02. If it opened at 377.02 on Monday and it closes at 377.02 on Friday, I'm still going to make $5,000. Now, if it goes to from 377 to 400, I'm going to make a lot more. But if it goes nowhere, I'm going to get the $5,000 cash I'm going to get. Now, the value of the stock might go down. Maybe it goes from 377 to 350. I'm losing money. There ain't no two ways about it. But I'm able to extract cash by selling options without selling stock. So at the end of the week, I'll still have the 2,500 shares of strategy stock. I can withdraw that cash, but I still have the stock. I didn't sell any of the stock. So the next week, if it goes back up, I'm in no worse position than I was the previous week, and I'm making income off of that. So everybody says, retire on your Bitcoin. Now all the podcast shows are talking about you can get a loan on your Bitcoin with Ledin or one of the other companies out there. It seems like Ledin's spending the most advertising dollars with influencers. But if you look at it, you're paying 12% because it's just not that popular yet. Now, when the big boys get in and you start being able to get loans from Cantor Fitzgerald and from JP Morgan and from Wells Fargo and from Citibank, like all things, as Jeff Booth so adequately espouses, it's deflationary in nature. They're going to put these lending departments up and they want to lend money. They have it. They ought to have it. They print it for free. The banks are getting money from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve loaned it to the big banks. The big banks make loans with it. And the big banks are getting it cheap, and then they make loans with it to other people. They're just getting it given to them. This whole thing, the world's on debt. They're on debt overload. Debt is the opiate that has destroyed the entire world. As I said before, people are on debt. Families are on debt. Cities are in debt. The county that you live in is in debt. Tell me what place in your country isn't in debt. Almost everybody's in debt. And who actually is the lender? That's the strange thing. I did a little studying on that. And who owns all the debt? There's $400 trillion worth of debt in the world today. Well, who's the lender? The United States sells bonds, and they sell bonds to Denmark or wherever, and then that country sells bonds to other people, and then other people go out and borrow money. It snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. Everybody's in debt. So when people say, hold on to your Bitcoin and retire, let me put it this way. If you're lucky enough that you have 1,000 Bitcoin, go ahead, spend it. I mean, you won't outlive, at 70 years old, I'm not going to outlive 1,000 Bitcoin. Why bother worrying about it? Just go ahead and spend it. You might not be able to spend it quick enough if you're not crazy. If you're not trying to buy Michael Saylor's yacht, you probably won't be able to outrun it. But if you've only got a reasonable amount of Bitcoin, we talked last time, 0.25. I said, if you're 25 years old and you got 0.25 of Bitcoin, you could retire on. Because you got 40 years of compounding appreciation. And if you don't touch it, when it comes to retirement age, you're going to have a lot of money on a quarter of a Bitcoin. When Bitcoin's 13 million, 14 million a coin. There's a lot of people out there who retire on, there's a lot of people over here who are retired on $1,500 a month, US dollars. They're living that way. I wish I could. I can't live on $1,500 a month. I want a better life than that, better lifestyle. You only go around once. You might as well go around right. But if you are thinking about retiring, look at how you can get some of your money into a leveraged Bitcoin play such as Strategy, or even maybe one of the leveraged stablecoin plays. Because I'm going to be the first to say stablecoins are going to be a bigger thing than Bitcoin. Not for making money, but for disrupting the banking system. If you want to put your wealth into something that's going to make you money, Robin, you need Bitcoin. But if you want to disrupt let's say that you're one of the persons who wants to sell some Bitcoin, or you want to sell a house, and now you got this US dollar, so it's going to depreciate, no doubt about it. The dollar is going to be debased. It's going to lose spending power until you get it into Bitcoin or wherever you're going to do. But I'd rather have it in stable coins than JP Morgan, because if people want their money from JP Morgan's got 2 or 3 cents on the dollar for all the money that it holds in deposit. Stable coins have over 100% security on those coins. So do you want, and by the way, if anybody reads their bank's agreements in the United States, if the bank goes belly up, they can keep your money. Now, you got federal deposit insurance up to a measly 250,000 US dollars. But the banks can, it's there. Once you deposit it, it's their money. It's technically not yours till they give it back. You may earn a little interest on it. It may sit in your account balance, but it's not yours. But if you hold the money in stable coins for the assets that you sell, and those stable coins are backed in short-term securities and gold and Bitcoin, which is what like Circle says it's backed by and what Tether says it's backed by, you're safer with Tether. Tether made more money last year per employee than any other company in the world. They made $13.8 billion in profit on a very, very small number of employees. And they're more than 100% backed for their stable coins. And if you do want to move Bitcoin around or sell Bitcoin, which I know you never sell your Bitcoin, but let's face it, people have problems. People have issues. Sometimes if you need the money to save the life of someone you care about and they don't have any money for medical treatment and you have to sell your Bitcoin to do it, well, That's what it's there for. Die broke, but help your family, or whatever you're doing. I mean, you have to sell it. You have to sell it. Now, if you're going to sell it to go buy the most expensive Ferrari ever known to man, 10 years from now, the money you bought that Ferrari with, you're going to say, wow, I thought it was a $200,000 Ferrari. Man, that's a $4 million Ferrari now that I can sell for $120,000. That's different. That's selling your Bitcoin being a fool. But if you need, not want, that's a big thing in my life. I don't know how old I was before I just figured out that those are the two most important words in your financial language. Need and want. When I was young, I wanted a lot of things. I've owned planes, several of them, twin engines. I've owned boats, snowmobiles. I was one guy. I only had me. I had a dozen snowmobiles spread over 6 states. I used to fly my plane to go snowmobiling, and I'd have like 2 or 3 snowmobiles located in different places to go snowmobiling because you never knew where the snow was going to be the best or where you wanted to go. So we had them spread out. I wanted that. Did I need that? Heck no. I blew enough money on stupid shit that I could have another 10 Bitcoin right now. Easy. On money that want, not need. Do I have some nice memories? Sure. Was it worth it? Not now. I'd rather have the Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't exist, but I could have saved the money and then bought Bitcoin. It's a relatively new thing, but for people your age, before you ever pay a bill, you need to ask yourself, do I want this or need this? And if you say, I just want this, maybe you should put it in Bitcoin. So that when you get old like me, you don't have to sell options on MicroStrategy. You just got so much Bitcoin that it doesn't matter if you sell it or not. That's the most comfortable thing in the world. If a guy's got a lot of money to start with and then he puts it all in Bitcoin, so it's outrunning inflation and everything's deflationary. And, the average guy, let's say he's got 100 Bitcoin, just 100. Well, he won't, if he's 60 years old, he probably won't outrun 100 Bitcoin. If he uses the want and need question, he sure ain't going to outrun it. You can have some wants, but, the guy who wants to go out and buy that, brand new hypercar because he's 60 years old and wants to impress the young women of the world. If you got 100 Bitcoin, I guess you can afford one extravagance, but you probably won't outrun it. But for the average person that we're talking to today, the guy who's out there making a living, raising a family, I'm talking to you. The guy who's out there just struggling along. If you can find $100 a week, put it in a program like River or Swan or whoever. Swan's great. I've got no complaints with them. And buy $100 worth of Bitcoin a week. You'll be surprised how it adds up if you're 30 years old or 35 years old. By the time you get 60, there'll be a lot. For those people who need that compounding. If you can get to 1 Bitcoin, 95% of all the Bitcoin's been mined, and 95% of all the people have no Bitcoin. It's going to be hard to get to 1 Bitcoin. For the life of me, Robin, I'm a really smart fella, and I have no clue why Bitcoin isn't 200 right now. Every time you turn around, somebody just bought 1,000 Bitcoin or 500 Bitcoin. And then you look at all the big mining companies like Mara, who are mining Bitcoin every day, but they're hoarding it. They're hodling it right here. Not only are they hodling it, they're borrowing money to buy more Bitcoin to hodl. Where in the shit is all this Bitcoin coming from? Right now, I heard another broadcast from a guy who I think knows what he's talking about. He says that 30% of all the Bitcoin that's out there right now are being held by some institutional entity, pension, company for a Bitcoin strategy company, somebody like that, BlackRock, the ETFs, all over the world, 30%. And almost 70% are being held by retail people, the OGs, the guys who got here in 2013 and 2015 and 2017. They're holding it and they aren't selling it. I'm not an OG, but I'm not selling it either. So how are you getting all these people buying all these billions of dollars worth and the price don't go nowhere? I don't know how they're manipulating this. Maybe it's all fair and good. Maybe there's that many people who are selling it. I'll tell you one thing. I got to vote for the dumbest people in the world. And those are people who short or go long Bitcoin on leverage. And sometimes it's like 50 times leverage or 25 times leverage. And who are they betting against? They're betting against the people who gave them the Bitcoin on leverage. If those people have enough Bitcoin to drive the price down so that their long levered play on Bitcoin can be liquidated, people always say, well, this many billions got liquidated today. Who got the money? The people who gave them the leverage. It's like buying an insurance policy on your life and then assigning the insurance company that sold you the policy to be your beneficiary, but you paid all the premiums up front. Think about that. These people who are leveraging up and down and up and down and up and down, and they're getting stopped out here and stopped out there, and who's making money on all this leverage? I keep watching for somebody to go on YouTube and say, hey, I got 25 times leverage. I went long and I made a bloody killing. Them videos are hard to find. Most of them get killed because the people who can kill you are the ones who benefit by killing you. What are your thoughts on that? You've interviewed more people than me.
When we talk about retiring on Bitcoin, and we're talking about people leveraging, when we talk about people going into debt, I have a little bit of a, I don't know how good it ties into this, what you just said, but I have a little bit of a concern that now, because Bitcoin is at over 100K, people are like, Bitcoin went up 70% in the last, 12 months. And now they're confident and now they're doing the leverage play. But the thing is, most people think they're doing the Seyr strategy, while what they're really doing is getting 20%, 15% interest cost consumer credit for the next 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, where I'm like, that's kind of gambling. That's like really, like, it use high interest cost and it's low duration. You really want to get into long duration and low interest rate. But even then, I'm completely out of, like, I don't want debt. Like, I don't want to do this. And the interesting thing that you said is playing basically with options and trading MicroStrategy. They have like those strike, strive. There's a third one. I don't
Stride.
Yeah, Stride. So they have those different products. They have option trading. You can do a lot of interesting things. And Seyr goes towards the fixed income market with the bond market, which is also an interesting, like, that he tackles that. And I'm just here, a guy, 26 years old. I just buy and sell Bitcoin. You have to know one thing about me. I earn most of my income directly in Bitcoin from Bitcoin companies. So, and my expenses are just like a few percent in Bitcoin. So naturally, either I borrow against it or I come across fiat some other magical way, or I sell some Bitcoin to cover some fiat expenses. I'm still earning more Bitcoin every month, but I have to exchange it.
But that's need, not want. That's good, not bad.
Exactly. Yeah, that's like I need to cover the fiat. It's covering fiat bills that I have to anyways cover, like rent, like paying freelancers to help me with the podcast, paying people to run the business, all those things. Is like, yeah, I need those things.
So you're the one that's keeping the price down by selling all the time? You're the one who's knocking down Bitcoin from 106 down to 98 over the weekends. It's you doing that. Man, you live high on the hog.
I mean, yes, but I still like the important thing for me is if I see my Satoshi balance, it has to go up every month. I want more Satoshis at the end of the month than in the beginning of the month. That's the bottom line I want to get to. And since I'm 21 years old, since I've started accumulating Bitcoin, so the past 5 years, this was always true. And if you get there, especially if you're young, it's an extremely good strategy. Now, the difference is if you're not 30 in the range like I am, but you are 50, 60, 70, 80, and you want to live on Bitcoin and you don't want to work, that's a whole different thing. And so I'm really interested in your strategies with MicroStrategy. But retiring is also, and we talked about the strategies that you're doing, but retiring for me is also a lot of mindset, a lot of, and you mentioned that the last time, how did you say, die
broke.
Die broke. Yeah, you said die broke. And I love your mindset around how you want to retire and how you want to live your life. And don't die rich, but die broke mentality. Talk to us about the kind of the mindset and the mentality that you have developed around retirement.
Well, my mindset around retirement, as far as die broke, is if you have to spend it, go ahead and spend it. I mean, I'm over here in Thailand, and Thailand's got two types of two classes of people, really. Let me call them classes, I guess. You got people over here with just a boatload, shit ton of money. And you got people over here who are living on, my goodness, I mean, you're living on $100 a week or less. I mean, these are people who have children and they're raising children on $100 or less. And when I find situations over here where people I think need it and deserve it, I like to help. And it's on a scheme of things, it's not much, but by using strategy and keeping 2,500 shares under my control of strategy, that 2,500 shares has been stable. And, I know that in May, I think I pulled 47,000 in what I call premiums or juice from the options. You sell options. You don't let your stock be called away. Sometimes you sell an option and you pay more to buy it back on Friday than you sold it for. But that's not the majority of time. But, if you can pull out that kind of money on strategy, and let me tell you, I am a firm believer that by the end of this year, strategy will be way more than double what it is now. I don't see how Bitcoin can stay down. Everything tells us, all the people who seem to know say that it's just a beach ball being held deep under the ocean. It's got to go up when it springs loose. So when it does, strategy will go up too. And I make more money on my options if strategy goes up than I do even if it stays the same. Okay. I want it to go up. There'll be times where it looks like, you sold options and it went up a ton over the week. And in reality, you could say, well, if I knew it was going to go up that much, I wouldn't have sold any options. I'd be even more ahead. And then I'd just take but here's the thing. If you don't sell the options and you need the money to live on, need, not debt, need, not want, need. If you need the money to live on and you don't sell options, how are you going to get it out of your account? Sell shares of MicroStrategy. Okay, because if you have, let's say you get 2,500 shares of MicroStrategy and it's trading for $377. If you don't sell any options and it goes up to 400, well, you made $23 a share on 2,500 shares of MicroStrategy. Okay, so you made all this money, so your shares are worth more money. But if you need the cash, how you get the more money? You have to sell a few of the shares. Well, if you sell the shares, then next week you don't have them to make more premium on, because you make premium based on how many shares you have. So you sell the premium every week because that converts the power of the volatility of Bitcoin multiplied by the leverage that Michael Seyr puts into strategy. And right now, by the way, the implied volatility is only 59% for this option week for strategy. That is so low. The volatility of strategy has been so low for so long. I remember 6 months ago, it wasn't 59%, it was 130%. And when it's 130%, you're going to get almost twice as much option premium. It's slow because of the geopolitical nonsense going on. Everybody hates everybody. It's silly, but you have to live with it. So it's your world. You got to live in it. So you sell options on strategy. So you take your Bitcoin, I would say, figure out a way that you can make money in Bitcoin derivatives, which strategy is, Similar Scientific, MetaPlanet. You can do all those if you want. But I only do strategy. And I'm not big on diversification. I believe Michael Seyr is right when he says he's not big on diversification either. There is no second best idea. So, I don't see where I'm going to have a better idea in investing in MetaPlanet than I am strategy. Saylor's brilliant. He's written the playbook. Everybody's following him. It's going nowhere. It literally is going, as long as he doesn't do anything stupid. And that's the one thing I want to point out. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Think about that. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Well, back in the 1990s, Seyr had some accounting problems back when it was MicroStrategy and he was selling software, business intelligence software. And his stock took a big hit for it. And he recovered from it. And when people make mistakes in business, they learn. When I was a kid, I came back from where I was working with my dad. And he said, how'd it go fixing that scale? I fixed industrial scales with the dials that went around and weighed people. I said, I worked on that all day to try to get it right. I made mistake after mistake. I adjust this and it was wrong. I'd adjust that and it was wrong. There's like a dozen adjustments that you can make on an industrial piece of weighing equipment back then. I said, I just made mistake after mistake. He said, how much money did it cost you? I said, well, it didn't cost me anything. I'm getting paid by the hour and the customer's paying by the hour. So it didn't cost me nothing. He said, son, listen closely. In business, mistakes cost money. Saylor's made his mistake. He's been running a public company now for almost 30 years. He's made the mistakes. He's gotten the experience. He got what he didn't want, and now he's not going to do that again. Seyr runs strategy in a more transparent way than I've seen any other company ever in my career. I mean, he's just telling you what he's going to do. And when he does it, he announces it through his filings with the SEC. He announces it on Twitter to the world. So I don't believe in diversification. So my Bitcoin is for when I need it. There'll come a day where I might have a need that would force me to sell Bitcoin or borrow against it, which is not a great deal at 12%, but it still isn't horrible. I mean, if you really believe in that Bitcoin's going to go up 40% a year, paying 12 isn't a bad idea versus selling it. So if it comes to that point, I'll sell. But you should try to divest yourself into some sort of Bitcoin derivative that will make you money and that is volatile. And if we get the volatility, all it takes to get the volatility of strategy up is to let Bitcoin get up to 130,000. Because right now the retail isn't interested in Bitcoin. The casual investor who has a Robinhood account, they don't really give a damn about Bitcoin right now. They're more interested in Circle or Hims or Palantir or whatever else they're investing in. They're just bored with Bitcoin because the price just goes 100, 98, 104, 98, 100. It's boredom to death. Let it jump to 130 in about a 3-week span of time. Then all these people will FOMO in and they'll start buying, and then it'll be 140, and then we're off to the races for a while. But for right now, it's not. So you have to figure out a way to make money on strategy by selling options. And let me tell you, Seyr said, do your homework on Bitcoin. Do not jump into selling options without doing your homework. It takes just as much time to understand how to sell options profitably and not wreck your trading account. Yeah, way more than half the people who play in the option market are losing. Everybody forgets that every time, Bitcoin's down to $98,000, somebody bought it. Somebody sold it at $98,000, but somebody bought it. Every time you sell an option, the person who buys it from you is trying to think about how they can turn that into profit for them. Only one of you can win. Either the seller wins or the buyer wins. So if you're buying options, you have to beat the seller. The seller has to be wrong. So if you're going to listen to this educational information only, do yourself a favor and get yourself an education. Now, I don't want you to press the like or subscribe button. I'm not selling anybody anything. And boy, does that piss me off about YouTube. I can't stand it. Every time I see an interesting subject, the guy starts off and wastes the first 30 seconds talking about how I should like and subscribe. And by the way, you should like and subscribe to Robin Seyr. So I'll say it for him so he doesn't have to embarrass himself by asking. But it just irks me. That's why I put most of my content now at mhanna500 on Twitter, because I'm just sick of all these people struggling on YouTube trying to get likes and shares and subscribes and and trying to extend the length of their video when they could tell you the story in 5 minutes and they want to do it in 35 minutes and they're not adding any value.
the first time I ever made any money. I got myself from that money a watch. And ever since then, I collect timepieces to remember times where I achieved some milestone. That's why I got the Bitcoin 2025 edition when I went to my first ever American Bitcoin conference. So for me, the Bitcoin watches from Coin Vigilante represents the time that we are living in. For every person that wears a Bitcoin watch, I know they are representing sound money to the outside world. Make sure to check out those amazing Coin Vigilante timepieces down in the descriptions. I love those watches so much. I know how big of a hurdle it can be to have self-custody, but it's so freaking important to make that first step. We have to make sure it's as easy and simple as possible. And that's exactly what BitBox did. BitBox created the simplest and the easiest hardware wallet to use to get into self-custody. So get yourself a BitBox down from the link in the description. And when you use code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation.
Yeah, Robin's got an interesting thing here. He's adding a lot of value if you follow him every day.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I'm now glad that I don't ask for like and subscribe. I've never done that, and I don't see the value in that. If I see it as such a amazing gesture if someone gives my video his time, because time is the most valuable thing. I don't want, in addition to that he's like, oh yeah, I have to like and subscribe, like all those things. And I see it like so many podcasters have after 30 seconds, after 5 minutes, whatever the time is, like, oh, it helps the podcast out, like and subscribe and all those things. And yeah, of course it does help actually the podcast out. But you, like the viewer, the listener, the watcher, whatever, giving the time into this podcast is the most amazing thing you can possibly do for this podcast. And I would never dare to ask for more than just your time.
Yeah, well, don't do what I did and blow your channel up by telling people what you really think about Biden and they kick you off the YouTube.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, I saw that. But you have a new channel. I saw the MSDR.
Well, I've got a channel, but they technically don't want me to have it. I can post something up on it if it's really important. But, I just don't want to contribute. I learn a lot from YouTube because YouTube has a lot of valuable content, and there's a lot of content on YouTube. There's a guy on YouTube who talks about making money on strategy, formerly MicroStrategy, by selling options. And he has a very, very aggressive and unusual take on how he does it. And he doesn't care about MicroStrategy going up at all. He takes the juice. His name's Mark Yegge, Yegge, I think. And it's called Passive Income with Mark Yegge. And he's got over 50 videos of how he's been extracting option premium from strategy since November of this year. He got into strategy at $473 a share. It's now $377. He's actually ahead, even though the price of strategies went down over $100 a share. He's made money taking money out of strategy every week. He's actually ahead. and the stock is down 25% from where he bought in at. So he's got over 50 videos on YouTube to watch. But if you're thinking about trying to make income off of options, you need to know what you're doing. You really do. And you need to spend that $100, maybe $200 to really, they call it options for a reason. You have so many options that you can do. You can buy, you can sell, you can pick the strike price, you can roll it out to a future date, you can roll down. You have to learn all these things. I sold an option in the 387.50 strike, and then the next day I rolled it down, and then I kept that for 6 hours, and then I bought it back and made more money. There's a lot of options. But if you do this, like I said, in May I did like 47,000 on 2,500 shares of strategy. And I still have the 2,500 shares, but I took 47,000 out of them. So you can live off that in retirement and not touch your Bitcoin. HODL. H-O, right there. HODL. It's the
Not
only
like me.
piece. This is the only piece of Bitcoin clothing that I have. I don't have anything, special. I know all these guys, you got Bitcoin on your shirt. Everybody's got Bitcoin. I've never been to a Bitcoin convention, so I've never bought the t-shirt. You know what I'm saying? I had to order these through Lazada, which is like a Asian Amazon. Lazada.
Would love to see you in like Bitcoin Prague, whatever the convention is. I think it would be very fun with you on the stage.
Oh, I don't think they'd ever put me on stage. They want somebody like Natalie Brunell on stage, something easy on the eyes. Let me tell you. I don't think they want to put me on stage.
You are very easy on the ears.
I may be easy on the ears, but she's easy on the eyes. Natalie, I love you, baby. If I ever get a chance to meet you, can I take a selfie? You're beautiful. So, no, I don't think they'll ever put me on stage. I might look better than Grant and Cardone, but that's it. I like him anyway, too.
I had Gary Cardone on 3 times, and I might have Grant Cardone actually on soon. I'm working on that, so it will be fun. I think it would be you and Gary Cardone would be, and Grant Cardone would be a fun energy.
Me and Gary would get along absolutely great. He is down to earth. Everything he says, I typically agree with, and he is just down to earth, super smart, but doesn't try to hold it over anybody, doesn't try to impress anybody. I don't think he's got a big ego. I think all the ego in those twins went to Grant. We'll put Grant and Trump up on the ego side of the stage. We'll put me and Gary up on the we don't really care about it stage. Give me a t-shirt and a cold drink. I'm okay.
You would definitely get very well with Gary, and I love Gary. I had him 3 times on the show. I think this should say a lot of things. I had you now the 2nd time on the show. I really want to have your 3rd time on the show. I just love speaking with people that are interesting and fun.
Well, look, if you're young, step one, get the fuck out of debt. Did I say it clear enough? Because I don't care if you're buying Bitcoin, you got to get out of debt. You cannot ever be financially free. I've got 2nd passports. I've got my money in Bitcoin. I can go to almost any country in the world that I want to go to, and I can stay there. I can live. I can take what wealth I have with me. Freedom is everything you got is freedom. But you can't be free when you're in debt. So if you're 30 years old and you have a car payment, get rid of it. Either pay it off, trade down. Let me tell you, at one point in my life, and I'm talking back in the early 1980s, I looked down and I said, okay, how much money do I need to live every month? This is 1983. And I remember I added up all my payments for all the cars and all my payments for the house and all my payments that I had to pay. And in 1983, I said, I need $14,700 a month. In 1983 dollars, that is a huge amount of money today. And it was all in payment for this, payment for that, payment for this. Well, I made a goal to get out of the payments. And once you don't have that $14,000 a month going out to payments, you can start putting that $14,000 a month to work towards securing the future. But you got to get out of debt, guys and girls. If you got debt, say, do we really need this? Do we really need a new car? My dad taught me one thing, and he wasn't the best dad in the world, but he taught me one thing. He bought a new car about once every 8 years, and he was a good husband. He bought a new car for his wife too, but they would pay cash and they would drive it for 8 years. And when he bought a new house in 1962, he paid cash. Didn't cost much back then because the dollar wasn't being debased. It was backed by gold. Imagine buying a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2-car garage house on an acre of land in 1962 and paying $13,000 for it. And we're talking about a brick home that was very nice. Think about it. But you pay cash. Ain't never had any money problems. Now, did he have a new car every year? The neighbor had a new car. His car was 5 years old and 6 years old and 7 years old. Then he bought a new car. When it got to 8 years old, he bought a new one. But he paid cash. So if you guys are looking to retire on a Bitcoin standard, first you have to get your ass off of the fiat standard. And the fiat standard is the debt standard. Their whole goal from the Federal Reserve, once the Federal Reserve was put in place in the United States, its sole purpose for the last 112 years has been to debase the currencies of the world and let it go to the people who own it, which we don't even know who that is. They won't tell anybody. The United States has to get rid of the Federal Reserve, in my opinion. Let interest rates do what interest rates do. They go up when not as many people are willing to lend and not as many people are willing to borrow. Interest rates will go up. And when lots of people want to borrow and lots of people want to lend, they'll go down. Get the Federal Reserve out of it. They are killing the world. I am not participating. Jack Maurer is not participating. Jeff Booth is not participating. It's a rigged system. It's absolutely a rigged system. And if you want to play in their game, you're going to lose. I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, gambling capital of the world. I lived there for 6 or 8 years, played poker every day. Poker's not rigged. You're playing against the other people on the table. The house doesn't have a specific edge. I never once put a quarter into a slot machine or put $1 on the roulette wheel where the edge is always in the house's favor. The edge is in the banker's favor. The gangsters, not banksters, the gangsters. Or is it banksters? I'm not sure. One of those two. You're playing a rigged game, you can't win. When I was 13 years old, I used to, in the summertime, go to carnivals. And I would run the Ferris wheel. I'd put the Ferris wheel together. I'd run the Ferris wheel. I knew all the carnies at the time, all the people who had the boost. 3 balls for a quarter, 3 balls. Those games were all rigged. They had lead weights on the bottom of those little furry things so they wouldn't fall over. The furry things had fur that stuck out this much on each side. Those games were rigged. You play their game, you're going to lose. 90% of the people lose. Quit playing a rigged game and get your ass out of debt. Then start getting Bitcoin. Simple. It's not hard.
I love that.
It's not hard, buddy. It really isn't.
There's so many interesting things with you. But one thing that I really I'm curious, because I've asked it every single of my returning guests, and I will ask it you too. What have you learned outside of Bitcoin since you have last been on the podcast?
Learned outside of Bitcoin since I last been on. I did not take the time or effort to sell options and buy options on my MicroStrategy. I bought MicroStrategy when it was priced down really low in 2021. I never sold options on it. I guess I could, but I had enough money. I wasn't worried about it. But since the last time we've been on, I was giving it some thought, and I said, I need to ensure that I never sell my Bitcoin. I need to make sure I'm not going to run out of money. I want to live a better life. Every year I get older, I want to live a better life. I want to spend more money next year than I do this year, but I don't want it to touch my Bitcoin. I want to spend more money on experiences and good times and helping people, who couldn't do it on their own, but need a helping hand. So I learned sometime I don't know, since I've been on 9 months ago, I started selling options. It's a money machine. I know it's expensive to live in Europe. It's expensive living in the United States. But if you can control 2,500 shares of MicroStrategy stock, and I'm going to call them MicroStrategy till the day I die because I just can't seem to get myself to think of them as strategy. You can make 5,000 to 20,000 or more a week and not sell a single share. You'll still have the same number of shares next week. So you just pull that option out, but you need to know what you're doing or you'll go bust. I would suggest if you want to learn how to do it, okay, watch everything you know, and you'll have to, in order to trade options, you need 100 shares of a stock. So get yourself 100 shares to control and then just do it for a while with just one. Are you going to make a lot of money? No, but you ought to be able to make $500 a week. Pretty easy. So, and $500 a week isn't chicken feed. You ought to be able to make $5 per share per contract. Maybe you don't make 500. Maybe you make 250. If you talk about the times where you're not going to get full advantage of it. But learn slow. Don't blow up your account by making stupid. Remember, every time I make money on selling this option premium, somebody's losing money. I don't make money unless I beat somebody. This is a game of intelligence. It's a game of patience. And it's a game of nerves. It's a lot like poker when I played every day. Selling options. When you sell an option for $362.50 and the price runs away from it is $377.50, and now the option is going to cost you 2 times or 3 times as much as you sold it for to buy it back, but it's Tuesday. It's not Friday. Friday is when the options close. You have to have the mental discipline to say, I can wait. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to buy here and buy it back because it's underwater. And then sometimes, if you're right, it's not $377.50. It moves back down to $365 or $362 or $360, and you end up good on that sale. So you got to have patience and believe in yourself. It's not easy, but remember, every time you make a winner, somebody else ended up cussing because they lost. There's no even sum game here. There's winners and losers in this option deal. But you can retire for life on this. You know, and a friend of mine trades stocks all the time. We talk every day. He says, well, why don't you do this stock? I don't know it. Well, you can make money on this. I don't know it. I know strategy. I can smell when it's going up. I can smell when it's going down. You can always count on Seyr hitting the ATM a little bit, knocking the price back down, creating some volatility for me. And he says, well, you can make money over here. You can make money over there. Why do I want to bother diversifying? There is no second best. That's what I've learned. Sell options. Don't touch your Bitcoin.
I love that. It's something that I think we never talked on the podcast about the options trading. And I was aware of options before Bitcoin even, because I was into stocks. And naturally, when you are getting into the stock game, you hear about options sooner or later. And you think about doing it. I personally never did it. I focused just building the podcast. But if I had more time, I would at least check it out and see for myself and educate myself. Because a lot of people make that mistake of like seeing one video. They're like, oh, I think they got the strategy. They're getting in there and they're losing a bunch of money because they're not really educated. They don't really know what they're doing. So I'm saying it just, you said it before. So like you really do your own research. And don't trust anyone that says like on one video is like, oh, this is how you do it, and just do it, because you don't have the depth of knowledge to actually go ahead and do it. So really go ahead, educate yourself, and do your own research.
And don't buy their damn courses. There are 100 people out there who want to show how they're the smartest redheaded chicken in the coop. And they'll sell you a course where you only have to pay them so much money a month and you can follow their trades and do that. And it's like relying on GPS in your car to find your way somewhere. Okay? If you have the GPS map on in your car every time you go to this place that you only go to once in a while, you'll never learn how to get there without the GPS on. So you can't just always rely on these guys to spoon feed you. Oh, I'm gonna sell the 390 strike on strategy here, and I'm gonna go out 35 days. I'm not gonna sell the weeklies. I'm gonna sell the monthlies, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that. And you pay me, and you'll know when I'm gonna do it when I do it, not when it's too late. Don't pay them suckers. They aren't that overwhelmingly good. That Mark Yagi I told you about, he's really different. He does a strategy that's very different. Now, I'm not talking about MicroStrategy. He does an options play where it's very different. And it seems to me, I've been following him now for like 6 or 8 months. Seems to me the guy he's not perfect. He as he says, he's not Nostradamus. But he makes money on all kinds of things. And he's played strategy. He's got 50 videos on it. But that might not be the way you want to play it. But you can learn a lot by watching his videos. You can learn a lot by watching a lot of people's videos. But don't be a sucker and give them, $80 a month for their nifty-difty trading plan. Okay? Keep that money and put it in Bitcoin. Put it in strategy stock. Don't be stupid with your money. If you want to be stupid with your money, order a pizza, but don't pay in Bitcoin.
It's another thing. If someone sells a course, it's not always a scam, but it's for me a red flag to look deeper. And I bought one course in my entire life, and it was not worth it. But it's like I as a creator would never like to do that. I put the information out there, and I want to have it free, and I want to have it available for everyone. That's why I put it out on every single platform. I'm on Rumble, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Podcast, I'm on Twitter. I'm just like, I don't care which platform. I just put it out as long as they don't kick me off. That's the play I'm doing. I'm just like giving value and information to the community. And for me, it's always kind of a yellow to red flag if someone sells a course.
You still got the watch company sponsoring you?
That's for sure.
You got your watch on? Let me see your watch. Hey, there you go.
I have multiple of them, but yeah, it's them. I have the Bitcoin way. I don't know if you have if you are familiar with them.
I've never used them, but they seem like an awful reputable company. You know, they're tech people. I don't know them, but I was networking Apple II computers together when Steve Wozniak was still building them in 1980. So I don't think I need as much tech help as the rest of them. So I might be a boomer, but I'm a tech savvy boomer.
Yeah, they have for me, and I was searching a long time because a lot of people come to me and ask me, "Oh, how do you do self-custody? Can you help me?" And I don't want to help other people with self-custody just because I don't want to be responsible for you losing your keys and losing your Bitcoin. So that's why I want to partner up with someone that helps them, and where I'm most sure of, if they follow what they're saying, they will not lose their Bitcoin. And Tony and the whole team there, I'm like, yeah, they have a really high standard. If you follow all their protocols and recommendations and do all, you have the best freaking setup of all of them. I like them just because they have a really high standard, even on the hardware that they're using and stuff like that. But yeah, this is the simple reason why I do it, because a lot of people come to me and I'm like, sorry, I really don't want to be responsible for your Bitcoin.
Well, I know that being safe, I'm like overly safe, because I know that I have 3 multi-signature vaults, multi-continent multi-signature vaults. So since you never sell a Bitcoin, you don't really need quick access to it. But, I don't even put all my Bitcoin in one secure basket. I want to break it up into more than one multi-signature vault. That's my thought. I don't know if that's going to be the best thought in the world, but at least they have to hack me 3 times. And a rinse attack won't work because I need 2 keys and I can't get to one on this continent. So good luck with that.
You have to come with me to the airport.
Yeah. You probably just kill me, What the hell? I made it to 70 years old. I already beat the odds. I'm way too overweight. All my skinny friends are dead. I don't know what it is. I don't think they ate enough. I think that's what it might be. I think they starved themselves to death.
Yeah, I might have to eat more.
These guys had 34-inch waists and they died at 56. I don't know what happened. It's just partying at both ends, I guess. Try not to drink alcohol. Try not to do drugs. Hold Bitcoin. Get options play on MicroStrategy. Find somebody that loves you. Have a good day. Spend 2 hours a day in the pool, floating around thinking about life. Think about what option to sell today. That's what I'm doing right now.
I think we can learn a lot from you when it comes to life philosophy.
Yeah, well, I've got a few of them, I think mistakes in business cost money. Don't make mistakes. That's my life philosophy. Make as few mistakes as possible and learn from them. That's it. You don't need to be nothing special about that. and don't ride motorcycle taxis in Asia. Everybody rides motorcycle taxis here. I think I'd rather, cliff jump without a parachute. It's the most dangerous thing in the goddamn world. These people are nuts. I don't heal that quick anymore to let these guys, it only costs 75 cents. They'll run you across town on a motorcycle. You get there in half the time. And that's all over Asia. They don't have that in the United States. I think the people in the United States got more sense than to ride on them. But, over here, there's hundreds of thousands of them. I don't know do they have them in Europe?
No. Here you can the only taxi you get is a car taxi.
Yeah, well, here but it's always 80, average day here is like 82 degrees in the wintertime. So I guess it's, always good weather to ride a motorcycle. It's always warm, but I won't get on one. So there's life lesson for you. When you get my age, give up the motorcycles. There's only two types of people who ride motorcycles, those who've laid them down and those who will. And at our age, or at my age, your age, I wish I was your age. How many Bitcoin would it cost me to be your age again? Could I afford it?
I don't know. Do you follow any of those longevity guys like Brian Johnson?
Yeah, I do. Freaking crazy. I truly do believe that, he's a guy who's got a shot at living to 140 years old. If he keeps doing what he's doing now, he might make it to 104. But if he's got the luck of my friends, he'll probably get run over by a bus at 42. He's pretty young. And he's got so much money. That hyperbaric oxygen chamber that he just did, man, that looks cool as hell. But it probably only costs $1 million to get one in your house, Yeah,
he's 47 years old. He looks definitely younger.
Oh, yeah, I guess he's 47. I got underwear that's 47. Got holes in it. Got holes in it, but I'm sure I still got some. Might not be able to fit in them anymore, but I probably kept them because I know the difference between want and need.
And you're extremely entertaining. I don't know if you know that, but I really enjoy watching you and enjoy talking with you, man.
I enjoy talking with you. That's why I agreed to do the interview, because I'm not putting up very much content. I do some poolside pontification. When I'm floating in the pool, I do videos, put them up on X.
And you have been highly requested. I had the first episode we put out was a year ago, and up until now, people every month or every other week, they're like, "Oh, where can I find his channel? I don't find it anymore. Oh, can you please bring back Hanna on?" Like, you have been one of the most requested guests after they have been on. So I think people really enjoy just listening to you, and they can now follow you on Twitter and see all your stuff. I think that's the best place to reach you, right?
Yes, sir. I like Twitter. God bless Elon Musk. He brought free speech back to the world without censorship. And if Iran had Twitter, they may overthrow their government. You notice, this is something that you may not notice, but the Iranians turned off their internet about 2 weeks ago. They just closed the internet down for the whole country. They didn't want the people to be able to communicate amongst themselves. And that doesn't help their warfighting efforts either when they turn off their own internet. And China, Xi Jinping will not be in power by September. He will be out of power, and we'll have a whole new set of leadership in China, which is also going to change the world. Guaranteed. That's Mark Hanna's prediction. He's out of there by September. You'll know if he's out because they hold this big parade in September in China. If he doesn't lead the parade, he's out. Slow. They don't want the world to know he's out, but he's out. Their country is in so bad shape. Here in Thailand, so many Chinese factories have closed since we last talked. My girlfriend's cousins and sisters, they worked in Chinese factories. And when Trump put the tariffs on in January, the factories closed down within 2 weeks. Just closed. I mean, just, you don't have a job anymore. Lock the doors. We're done. And the Chinese have just dropped. And now they sell a ton of Chinese cars here in Thailand, but they're lying about how many cars they sell now in China. They're taking those BYD cars, and they have no mileage on them whatsoever, not 1 kilometer. And they mark them as sold and resell them as used cars in foreign countries so that they can lower the price dramatically, claiming it's a used car. It has 0 miles and 0 warranty on it. Now, how bad does your business have to be where you're building cars so fast you can't sell them? So then you call them used and say you sold them so you can lower the price 35% in a foreign country without making it look like your new cars are 35% down. You know why they're in trouble? Debt. They're in debt. Just like Evergrande. They build all these cars on credit. Nobody wants to buy them. The world is, fiat is going to crash. It is going to come down so hard it's going to make your eyes swell. Not overnight, but when you start having to pay, I know I'm paying 10% more for everything over here just because of the value of the US dollar. The Thai baht's held up real well against other foreign currencies because they've got a good economy over here. Just that simple. They got a good economy and they protect their people. I couldn't work over here. There's like 50 jobs in law over here I'm not allowed to do. I couldn't drive a cab over here. I couldn't pick rice in the field over here. It's against the law for anybody who's not a Thai citizen to hold those jobs. Instead of like countries like in Europe where there's so many immigrants all doing work, they flooded Europe with immigrants and now they're out there competing against jobs. In Thailand, if you immigrate into Thailand, there's like 50 employee opportunities you can't have. You can't even be a professional over here. A lawyer comes from America. He can't be a lawyer over here unless he becomes a Thai citizen, which is harder than hell to do. Very hard to get a citizenship in Thailand. They protect their people. England, or European unions let so many immigrants in that I don't even know if Bitcoin can save them. I mean, you're probably going to be a minority in your own country now, aren't you? Close?
I don't know the statistics, but could be.
I mean, you've got so many immigrants in your country right now that they've let flood in. Globalism. Trump's killing globalism in the United States, but I don't want to turn this into a political thing. Nobody's perfect. But I loved him when did you see today when he was talking about Israel and Iran shooting at each other again? He says they have been fighting and hating each other for so long they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I mean, President of the United States told them they don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's amazing. I know you're going to edit that out, but that's okay. It's all right if you edit that out.
No, I think it's fine. That's literally what Trump said, right?
It's literally what he said. I about fell out of my chair when I heard that. He's just so frustrated dealing with morons. And we've created a global society of indebted morons. I mean, it's literally poison. It is poison to these people. And they keep going back to the trough and getting more. And they borrow to pay, and the governments are the worst. They print money to borrow money to pay off the money that they borrowed last time, print some more money, sell some more bonds, pay off the old bonds. It's the largest Ponzi scheme in the world. Good money, Bitcoin. That's good money. Sound money. Everything gets cheaper in Bitcoin. I don't want to own a house. I don't want to own a house over here. But at some point, if I keep holding my Bitcoin, it'll get to a point where I'll be able to sell 1/10 of a Bitcoin and buy a pool villa. Think about that. When it gets to a point where I can sell 1/10 of a Bitcoin and buy a pool villa, I'm going to let it go. But that's how cheap it's getting. What I could buy this pool villa here for 4 Bitcoins now. When it gets down to 1/10 of a Bitcoin, I'll pull the trigger and buy one. And how many years is that? 5? Maybe? 6? If I'm still around, I'll pull the trigger, I'll buy one, give it to my neighbors because they're good people. That's what power of Bitcoin can do for you. Die broke, make your neighbors happy.
You're an amazing human being, Mark. I love that. We have, as you know, we have an end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, what has been the best method to make someone fully understand Bitcoin?
What has been the best method to make someone fully understand? See that fully? That's the trick part of that question. Fully understand Bitcoin. Okay, here's the best method. You live in a authoritarian government. You scoop the person off the street. You stick him in a cell full of no other thing to read but Bitcoin educational material. No other videos to watch but Bitcoin educational materials. And you tell them when they're able to pass the toughest test on Bitcoin that you've ever been able to make, you'll let them out of jail. Then you might get somebody to fully understand Bitcoin. Put them in jail, give them the education, and say you're going to stay in jail until you learn it. Other than that, they have to want to do it on their own.
I love that.
It's the best I could come up with.
We have to put them in jail and make them watch all 500 plus episodes of my podcast. They are there for 600 hours then.
There you go. That's how you would change their life. You would change their life.
Mark, it was amazing. Thank you so much for being on. I think we mentioned it before where people can find you. It's on Twitter, Mark Hanna, the best way.
No, it's Hanna 500.
500. I put it in the description
so
people can find it.
I think that's what. Anyway, they'll find me one way or the other.
I'll put it in the description so people can easily find it. So yeah, thank you so much, Mark, for being on, and also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Bye bye.